A 3-year-old boy cried out "Mommy" as he was crushed by a car seat which was deliberately moved back by his mother's irate boyfriend, a court heard. Stephen Waterson allegedly pushed his seat back into Alfie Lamb as he was put in the rear footwell of an Audi by his mother, Adrian Hoare, in a bid to keep the toddler quiet. Waterson, 25, twice moved his seat back and kept it in a reversed position until Alfie went ominously quiet, before then making choking noises, the court heard. Alfie was squashed and suffocated and died 3 days after suffering a cardiac arrest at the couple's home in Croydon, South London, the court heard. Prosecutors told the Old Bailey Alfie sobbed for his mother as Waterson crushed him with his seat. Hoare, 23, also allegedly slapped the 3-year-old as he screamed during the car journey. Waterson and Hoare lied repeatedly afterwards, then assaulted the 2 other passengers in an attempt to cover up their crime, jurors were told. The court heard on the journey through Croydon on 1 February last year. Marcus Lamb was driving, Waterson was sitting in the front passenger seat, and Hoare was in the back with another mother, Emily Williams. Prosecutor Duncan Atkinson told the Old Bailey today this movement was a deliberate action by Waterson, who was angered by the noise and fuss that a 3-and-a-half-year-old was making during the journey. Until he got into that vehicle with his mother and those others, CCTV showed that Alfie had been fit and well. It follows that during that car journey something happened to Alfie to compress his chest and abdomen so that he went from an active toddler to a very seriously ill and brain-damaged one. A forensics investigator found Alfie had been subjected to between 78-81 kilograms of force and 9.5 centimeters gap. Paramedics were called to the couple's address on the evening of February 3 to find Marcus Lamb performing CPR on Alfie. Hoare told paramedics that they had got into a taxi and put him in a child seat where he fell asleep. "We tried to wake him and found him unresponsive. The taxi driver kicked us out and FD off," she said. Mr. Atkinson said it was to be only the beginning of the lies that she and others were to tell. Lamb told police that Hoare had been shouting at Alfie while they were out shopping. Mr. Atkinson said during the journey, he heard Alfie screaming and crying, and both Hoare and Waterson were telling him to shut up. Lamb also heard Hoare slap Alfie. He then heard the sound of the front seat moving back and Alfie saying, "Mummy." He told police only became aware of the problem with Alfie after the car stopped at Adams Way. Waterson had pulled Alfie out of the car and Hoare said to him, "What have you done?" Emily Williams told police Alfie carried on crying for a few minutes and then he became quiet, so Adrian thought he had fallen asleep. "But before I noticed that he was it sounded like he was about to bring up sick, but he didn't, and he swallowed it again. So I told Adrian to check him, but she didn't. She said he was fine and he was just coughing." Emergency services were called at 7:23 p.m., where they found Lamb giving CPR to Alfie before he abruptly left. Paramedics were not satisfied with Hoare's account and the police were called. When they arrived, Hoare was on the phone to Waterson allegedly getting their stories straight. Hoare claimed they had been in a taxi but was unable to describe it or the service they said they had used. Later, when the couple had just arrived at the hospital, Hoare sent a text to him at 8:07 p.m. saying, "They know we are lying." Waterson gave the false name of Alex Richardson and identified himself as Hoare's cousin at the hospital. He gave the impression to the police of being helpful and concerned, Atkinson said. The pathologist found that Alfie had died as a result of crush asphyxia. Mr. Atkinson said it was caused by the front passenger seat of the Audi vehicle. Waterson's seat behind moved back further into the rear passenger at a time when it was known Alfie was in the footwell. He moved the seat into Alfie, and the passengers pleaded with him to move forward because it was obvious he had hurt the boy, the court heard. However, when Alfie made noise again, Waterson deliberately moved his seat back again and kept it in reverse position, squashing Alfie, Mr. Atkinson said. He again showed signs of breathing problems until he ominously went quiet. Alfie's mother had a duty to protect him from avoidable harm, and yet she had failed to do this by inappropriately placing a young child in the rear footwell of a moving car. She failed in any meaningful or sufficient way to address the consequences of Waterson's actions. Share this article. Share. Hoare later assaulted Williams in an argument that was no doubt related to the incident. Conscious that Lamb was a witness to what he had done and had spoken to the police, Waterson and others assaulted him in an act of witness intimidation on 15 February. The court heard Waterson fled after the boy fell unconscious and sold the car very quickly afterwards. Both defendants have admitted to perverting the course by submitting false statements to police. Hoare and Waterson, from Croydon, South London, deny manslaughter. Hoare denies further charges: child cruelty for placing Alfie in the footwell and common assault on Williams on February 14. Waterson denies intimidating Marcus Lamb, also known as Marcus Richardson, on 15 February. The trial continues.